Well, Jeremy Clarkson has said, I'm surrounded by farmers and plasterers and brickies and butchers, and all I hear all day long is that there is too much immigration. He said, but if they say this out loud or if they go on a march, they are told by the London elite they are far-right extremists or racist thugs. For the most part, he says, they're not. They're just people who know that they have to shut up when the last post is played and that a cheese rolling down a hill is.
Jeremy Clarkson, the most brutally outspoken journalist out there, just dropped a bombshell on Keir Starmer live on Global News. And trust me, this was the last thing Starmer saw coming. I mean, can you believe it? An ordinary journalist standing up to one of the most powerful figures in the United Kingdom, all in defence of farmers and workers. That's the kind of honesty and loyalty we need in this country, especially when we're dealing with leaders like Starmer, who don't always have our best interests at heart.
Well, if you own a farm or land, you have an additional £1 million inheritance tax than anyone else does. So already they have additional land that they can pass on without paying any interest.
And this time, do you know what really pushed Clarkson over the edge this time? Was Starmer's latest budget catastrophe, of course. It's like he's actively trying to throw pensioners and the working class under a bus. Because who needs financial security or a little bit of dignity when you can just annihilate people's futures to fill some mythical budget black hole? But hey, if you still give a damn about Britain's future and want the truth without all the sugarcoating, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. We're here to bring you the stories that the others are too scared to cover.
So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello? I thought you were running a news operation.
And he said the fact is that 4 million people voted for reform. And he said, and more than that voted for Brexit. And Keir Starmer is upsetting them. He doesn't use that phrase. He says he's annoying them by labelling them as modern-day Hitlers. And he says, I therefore suggest that both he and his friends at the BBC calm down the rhetoric, or we could be heading for some serious trouble. And he's absolutely right.
Clarkson has this insider's look into what people outside the London bubble are thinking. Farmers, builders, regular folks, they're saying there's too much immigration. But apparently, voicing these concerns automatically makes you the villain in the eyes of Starmer and his buddies. Here comes the bombshell Starmer won't want to hear. Clarkson flat out says, people aren't racist, they're realists. 4 million people voted for reform, even more for Brexit, and yet here's Starmer labelling them as far-right extremists. Clarkson's giving the BBC and Starmer a friendly tip: tone down the righteous outrage, or you'll get the backlash of a lifetime.
What's the farmers going to do? I mean, honestly, what are they going to do? The ones who don't have Amazon phone calls from them around and who wants to be a millionaire to top up the income. I mean, what do you do?
Jeremy Clarkson is furious, and it's not about slow drivers or tractors. No, it's about the shocking new inheritance tax on UK farms. This isn't just some small, annoying policy. It's a full-on disaster for British farming, and Clarkson is not holding back. Why is this tax such a big deal? Well, because it could destroy British farming as we know it. Clarkson's not just complaining about a new tax, he's calling out the whole political system, especially Keir Starmer, who's quickly earning a spot on Clarkson's blacklist. He flat out says, no, I'm not inviting him to the pub.
£1 million inheritance tax than anyone else does. So already they have additional land that they can pass on without paying any interest.
So what's got him so angry? The new inheritance tax is an existential threat to UK farms. You don't need to be a farmer to know this is bad news for families who want to pass down their land to future generations. Clarkson says that young farmers won't even get a chance to inherit the land they've worked on for years. Instead, they'll be forced to watch as their family farms are sold off just to pay the tax. What happens next? The death of British farming. This new inheritance tax policy, it's a joke. The 20% tax on assets over $1 million might look nice on paper, but for farmers, it's a death sentence. They don't have the liquid cash to pay these bills, and with land prices through the roof, this could lead to farmers losing everything.
I think Starmer's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's only been with us 81 days. But look what he's done in those 81 days. He's allowed the Chancellor to go ahead with a scheme where 4,000 pensioners could freeze to death this winter.
Clarkson isn't done yet. He's calling this tax a disaster, a complete erasure of farming traditions that have been around for centuries. The policy could destroy family farms, the same ones that have fed the nation. If you're a farmer, you're basically facing the end of the line. So, what's the fallout for Starmer and his Labour Party? It's massive. Clarkson's not alone in his criticism. The NFU is speaking out, and they're worried that half of UK farms could be forced to sell off land just to pay this ridiculous tax. It gets even darker with the tragic story of farmer John Chelsworth, who tragically took his own life, has become a heart-wrenching symbol of just how devastating the latest inheritance tax changes can be. Chelsworth, who had worked tirelessly to build up his family farm, was hit hard by the news of these tax hikes, changes that many believe were pushed forward under the leadership of Keir Starmer's Labour Party. The emotional toll was too much for him, and sadly, he couldn't cope with the pressure. His son, now left to pick up the pieces of both his family's legacy and his father's death, has openly blamed Starmer for his father's devastating decision. He's made it clear that the weight of this policy, which threatens to dismantle what his father had worked his entire life to build, played a significant role in pushing his father over the edge. This isn't just about a tax number on a balance sheet anymore. This is about lives, families, and the consequences of policies that many argue are out of touch with the reality on the ground.
Elite, and I'm going to call them that for the purposes of this discussion. You know, Biden, Starmer, Macron, Scholz now that he's gone, but von der Leyen, all of them, they don't care about the individual member citizens of their countries. What they care about is some kind of global agenda where they promote themselves, where their ideology comes first, where frankly immigration doesn't matter because nation states don't matter. And the vote for Trump was obviously a vote for Trump, but it was a vote for putting the United States first.
Clarkson, with his usual smugness, wasted no time going for the jugular. It wasn't just a harmless jab, it was a full-on roast. And Starmer, well, let's just say he didn't exactly shine in the comeback department. It was like watching someone try to play chess while Clarkson was already 10 moves ahead, smirking all the way. But here's the kicker. Clarkson didn't just make a point, he made an impact, one that's going to be talked about for ages.
Deregulating, supercharging the US economy. And it's a welcome change of direction by the biggest Western country in the world, by the biggest country, the most powerful country in the world. Because unless Starmer and Macron and all those other globalists get on this bandwagon, unless they join America and start deregulating, cutting taxes, promoting cheap energy and so on, unless they do that, our own economies are going to go down the pan. Completely. Because all foreign direct investment, all exports, everything will go to America. Capital will flow to America and America will boom and will go down the pan. So I'm delighted that we've got this reversal in policy, and I just hope Starmer has got enough of a brain.
Jeremy Clarkson continues his passionate analysis of the shifting global political landscape, commenting on the supercharging of the US economy. He describes this as a much-needed change of direction for the world's largest and most powerful country. Clarkson stresses the importance of America's new policies, contrasting them with the globalist ideologies of leaders like Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron. Clarkson points out that unless Starmer and Macron start adopting policies like deregulation, tax cuts, and promoting cheap energy, their economies are doomed. He warns that all foreign investment, exports, and capital will flow to America, leaving Europe in economic decline. He is pleased with the policy reversal in the US, but expresses doubt about Starmer's ability to understand its significance.
This is a man who in the last... Parliament has sat for 34 days. He's been abroad for 22 of them, pontificating and rushing around the world, playing the big, as you say, globalist, ideological... I think there's enough going on in this country, Ben, and that's why, for me, the Trump thing was refreshing.
Clarkson talked about Starmer's international travels, noting that during the last Parliament, Starmer spent 34 days abroad, with 22 of those days spent in foreign countries. Clarkson criticised Starmer for focusing on global politics rather than domestic issues. He remarked that there is plenty to address within the UK, and for Clarkson, the rise of Donald Trump was refreshing in many ways. Despite having reservations about some of Trump's actions and statements, Clarkson admires Trump's commitment to putting everyday Americans first. He feels this is something that hasn't been seen from any Western leader in decades.
Starmer, apparently the only big leader that's going to cop out 29, he's in Paris with Macron, the short one. I would love to be a fly on the wall because they must be absolutely hacked off to high heaven that Donald Trump has succeeded. And of course, he's now planning to thwart Trump on Ukraine. I don't think anybody knows what Trump is going to do, but I said something the other day which you might agree or not agree with.
Clarkson showed frustration of Macron and Starmer, who, according to him, must be enraged as they watch Trump's success in America. America, while they are stuck with outdated globalist policies. He also mocks Starmer for being the only significant leader still backing the globalist approach, while the rest of the world seems to be moving toward more national-focused agendas. Clarkson playfully suggests that it would be fascinating to witness the tension between these European leaders, especially as they are likely displeased with Trump's rise. He mentions Trump's contentious views on NATO, tariffs and taxation, noting that the global elite must be feeling the pressure of Trump's success. He speculates that Trump, as a businessman, may be inclined to negotiate with both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. Clarkson believes that Trump's need to close deals would make him more willing to engage with these leaders, playing into his personal ego and political strategy.
Looking back, I mean, the sheer stupidity of Keir Starmer allowing 100 Labour supporters to go over to the key swing states in America to campaign for Kamala. I mean, think about that now in the cold light of day, now that Trump has triumphed. How stupid! What a moron to do that. What a moron.
While no one is talking about Keir Starmer wrongdoings, since he is the Prime Minister, Jeremy Clarkson, in classic form, takes aim at Keir Starmer, claiming the Labour leader's masterstroke was sending 100 Labour supporters to campaign for Kamala Harris in the swing states of America. Because obviously, who wouldn't trust a bunch of Brits to save an election? What could possibly go wrong, says Clarkson, looking back on the absolute genius move now that Trump has won. But don't worry, Clarkson doesn't just throw stones at Starmer. He also reminds everyone of the deeply troubling threat that is America's special relationship with the UK. According to Clarkson, Starmer's student activist style has now messed that up. Honestly, someone gave him a medal for that level of analysis.